So good morning, everyone. And we will take a moment here and just one at a time, you can all put your audio on, unmute yourselves, and one at a time, as it strikes you, say hello. Hello.
Hi there.
Hello.
Hi, everybody.
Hello.
Good morning. How's everybody doing?
Good morning. Doing okay.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Good morning, all. Happy to see the sunshine again, 2 days in a row.
Hey,
Woohoo!
yes.
All right. So welcome in community news this morning. We continue to offer our financial gifts to sustain this church and its work in the community. I know there were a number of people on Friday who were at the soup kitchen. To donate electronically, please visit the church website at uumeadville.org or mail your checks directly to the church. And our Share the Plate recipient in March is the French Creek Conservancy. You are never alone. It is okay to be tired of, excuse me. It is okay to be tired of change. It is okay to be tired of everything different. Okay to feel weary of resilience and wholeness and learning and growth, and okay to yearn simply for rest. It's okay to be grouchy and unsatisfied, and all the ordinary human ways of being that we are. Let this morning be a reminder that you are loved. Let our time together soothe what is restless in you. May you be comforted in knowing that whatever you are feeling today and other days, you are not alone. You are never alone. Come, let us worship together. As we light our chalice this morning, the light of the sun does not lift the shadows that have fallen on humanity the world over. We relight our chalice flame to reignite the spirit of radical optimism, knowing it takes us all living what matters to dispel those who would divide us. All manner of things will be well if we make them well. May our free religious communities embody the right relationships our world so desperately needs. And if you would like to listen or follow along at home with our unison affirmation of covenant and mission, our covenant is to be a loving, joyful community that nurtures spiritual growth, promotes compassion, social responsibility, and service in an atmosphere of mutual trust. Our mission is to be a faith community devoted to love and respect, reason, and justice. This next portion of the service is a video message from Reverend Frederick Gray, who's our National UUA president, and she has an anniversary message for us.
Dear ones, this week marks the one-year anniversary when nearly all of our congregations moved to virtual operations. Anniversaries, particularly of tragic or traumatic events, impact us whether or not we consciously acknowledge them. I'm reminded of the words of Unitarian Universalist minister Max Coots, who writes, "When holidays and holy days and such times come, when anniversaries arrive by calendar or consciousness, when seasons come as seasons do, old and known but somehow new, mark the time." And so it matters that we mark this time, the anniversary of a year like no other. So much grief, so many dear loved ones who've died, So much tragedy on a scale it is hard to comprehend. Anniversaries invite us to remember, and in a year like that, that is a heavy reality. If you are feeling fragile, grieving, depressed, forgetful, or just plain exhausted, know that you are not alone, that this is normal. It matters that we reach out when we are in need. It also matters that we give ourselves time to feel, to just be present to your emotions, to the grief and the loss. Be compassionate and gentle with yourself and with others. We are all mourning the collective trauma of this year, even as we still experience it, even as we still live with distance from loved ones, isolation, health risks, and unbelievable stress. As we mark this anniversary, we also remember all the ways that we have continued to say yes to our values, to one another, to life. Many of you have been on the front lines of the crises this year as doctors and nurses and essential workers, as chaplains and caregivers and pastors, as first responders, as religious educators and teachers, as organizers and community leaders, as artists and musicians, as loved ones and family. All saying yes to help people survive, to defend lives, to care for our children and young people, to bring reminders of beauty and grace to sustain us, to be present to those in their dying moments and to their loved ones in saying goodbye. So many of you and your communities as a whole have done so much to nurture life in this time of incredible loss. And it takes its toll. I pray that you may have moments of rest and love to renew your spirit. May you be held in the same grace and generosity in which you give. It is my hope that as we mark this anniversary, we will remember and acknowledge the sorrows, and that we will also acknowledge the things that we have learned about ourselves and about our faith. We learned more deeply what it means to center collective care and compassion in our ministries. We learned to more fully recognize our interdependence and prioritize the needs of those most vulnerable within and beyond our communities. We've extended our ministries beyond any walls, caring for our neighbors and wider communities and providing unprecedented access to our ministries online. We've opened our buildings to serve the community and save lives, to support the organizing and uprisings for racial justice. We've organized food pantries, first aid resources, homeless shelters, and distributed essential goods. We've leaned into our deep commitment to democracy, helping millions exercise their right to vote and playing a critical role in what was the largest, most accessible, and transparent election in U.S. history. We leaned into relationship across our congregations and wider association, partnering and sharing ministry like never before. We've been generous, innovative, courageous, imaginative, and loving at a time when that has been needed most. It is my greatest hope that this will have a lasting impact on our lives and our ministries. And while we have much to be proud of, many of us continue to experience real harm from this pandemic. Long-lasting illness, risks to our health, economic hardship, isolation, and grief. As we follow the hopeful developments, with greater numbers of people being vaccinated and the infection rates declining, now plateauing, may we remember to remain steadfast in our commitment to supporting the well-being of all people. And this means making decisions that reduce community spread. I know we are tired and grieving and long to be together. That day is coming. But it matters that we continue to follow the science and make decisions to support public health. As we mark this 1-year anniversary, so many things in our lives have changed. May we continue to lean more deeply into compassion and care. For these remind us that we are not alone, and they are practices that strengthen our sense of mutuality and belonging, our interdependence. And there are no more important practices or culture to develop in this time. May we continue to hold in love and care all of those who are suffering in this time. May we continue to be gentle with ourselves and our others, make room for our grief and what we are experiencing. And may each of us continue to be nurtured and supported by this faith and our communities that we hold so dear. Much love to all of you and many blessings.
Good morning, everybody. Thanks for being here. As I mark the time since the beginning of the pandemic, it is not easy to admit that there are things about the past year that I've enjoyed, even loved. It is not without an immediate sense of guilt. A number of people I've known have died from the virus, and scads more have fallen ill from it. Many people we know, including ourselves, have been touched by grief, depression, anxiety, frustration, and loss. And it is not lost on me that we live in a nation that undervalues emotional support, that undervalues community belonging, that undervalues feelings, intuition, and love. And yet, there have been some things that I personally have enjoyed. Perhaps some other day we can discuss the feelings of guilt I've been experiencing, but today I want to share with you 3 things I love about the pandemic. So, in no particular order. Number 1, water cooler conversations. I hate small talk. I can succeed at small talk, really I can, but it hurts. It's painful. I know the tricks: attentive listening, building a repertoire of knowledge about someone. For example, I know that if I need to make small talk with Karen, I can ask about her daughter, and Karen will be happy to talk about her. I could probably ask Deb about quilt projects. I can ask Rick about technology. I can ask Josh and Jennifer about music. You get the point. But I hate it. In the past year, I haven't had to engage in it nearly as much as before. Thus, I love the pandemic. I love this aspect of the pandemic. Number 2, driving. I no longer have to drive to work. That's pretty exciting. Now, to be fair, this is something Kirsten and I have talked about, especially throughout the winter months. So this is a shared love between her and I. Truth is, I only live 1 mile from work, but Kirsten lives much further away. And this is snow country. But even for me, the freed up time from not shoveling my driveway on the daily, the freed up petrol from not warming up my 20-year-old car to drive that 1 mile to work, well, I love this aspect of the pandemic. Number 3, the holidays. Oh, the holidays. Number 3 for me is like adding numbers 1 and 2 together, then multiplying it exponentially when you factor in consumerism, vanity, hypocrisy, disingenuous people with disingenuous ideas. My goodness, how thankful I am to the pandemic for saving me from the holidays. So, those are the 3 things I love about the pandemic. I'm sure there are more. These are the 3 I wanted to talk about. So, since we've been through a lot already this morning with Reverend Frederick Gray's message in the beginning of this homily, I encourage you to take a second to stretch, take a second to breathe. Because you might have noticed the title of today's service was The 3 Things I Love About the Pandemic and the 3 Things I Hate About the Pandemic. So, in no particular order, here are the 3 things I hate about the pandemic. Number 1, water cooler conversations. So, you've learned about me that I don't like small talk. You may also know that I love silence, even silence with ambient noise. I love those moments in the sanctuary when we are able to sit in silence. I listen to you breathe. I listen to the cars outside, the shuffling of a hymnal or an order of service. However, I really do like people, and I love connecting with people. I love sharing with people and listening to them share parts of their lives with me. I love showing solidarity, supporting, and helping people. Truth is, I love talking to people. And sometimes water cooler conversations lead to big idea or big emotion conversations. And I miss those. Thus, I hate the pandemic. Number 2, driving. So I actually love driving. Everything I said about it before was true. Don't misunderstand. But when the weather is nice, when I have moderate faith in my 20-year-old car, when I have a full tank of gas, I'm not in insane traffic, and I have a ton of time, I love driving. And I don't have as much reason to do it now. So I hate the pandemic. Number 3, the holidays. I don't decorate a lot usually, but this past year, I didn't decorate at all. Frankly, my house is a mess. I don't have the energy, and I simply could not pick myself up and start. So I didn't. And during a time of year when daylight is shortest, the perks of a pine tree, candles, stockings, presents, a Yule log, and holiday lights help. And I hate the pandemic for taking that away from me. So lately, I've been thinking a lot about the politicization of the pandemic. I've been thinking a lot about the polarization of contemporary politics. Those 2 things led me to thinking a lot about the Western desire to place things or ideas into dichotomous categories,
Mhm.
a pairing of opposites,
Mhm.
love, hate. positive, negative, extrovert, introvert, intelligent, dumb, truth, fiction. And yes, sometimes categorizing something quickly is a matter of life and death. But most of our life is not a true false test. Much of life is a matter of degree, a scale, a continuum, a richly textured tapestry that requires complex thought to comprehend. I know you've felt impatient. I know you're becoming more cynical. I know you feel disconnected, anxious, fearful. We do not get to choose our feelings. We should not feel guilty about them. But we do get to choose our actions. We can choose to react with solidarity, not selfishness. We can recognize that truth is murky and complicated. Truth is painful. Truth, like love and so much else, lives on a spectrum. I do not actually have a love-hate relationship with the pandemic. I have a relationship with the pandemic.
Mhm.
And I have a relationship with each of you, individually and in community. And we have relationships with everyone else. And all humans have complex, rich relationships with the earth and the galaxy. So I ask of you this. The next time you notice something that you then place into a polarized category, stop. Train yourself to envision, imagine, and define the complexity. Then train yourself to start and end with justice, spirit, and love. Thank you.
What a time to be alive. What a time to be alive. The revolution has come. What a time to be alive. What a time to be alive. When we stand up, we already won. What a time to be alive. What a time to be alive. The revolution has come. What a time to be alive. When we stand up, we've already won. People all over the world are standing up, saying we ain't gonna take it no more. Speak truth to power, a change gon' come. This we know for sure. What a time to be alive. What a time to be alive. The revolution has come. What a time to be alive. When we stand up, we've already won. What a time to
As we extinguish our chalice this morning, we have these closing words for hard times. No matter how weak or frightened we may feel, we each have gifts that can make a difference in the world. In this coming week, may you do at least one thing to support the broken, to welcome the stranger, to celebrate what is worthy, to do the work of justice and love. Be strong. I would also like to add, be soft. Be connected. Each day act so that you may be a little more whole. Blessed be.
This morning, I would like to thank you for joining our service, and I would like to invite you to our coffee hour breakout rooms that will last for a half an hour. To, in a moment, pair you into rooms, and if there's conversation around today's homily, maybe you have some things that you are also loving and hating or dealing with throughout the pandemic. So thank you again, and see you next Sunday.